You're listening to the Badger State Ball Podcast with Prep Baseball Wisconsin, breaking down the top high school prospects and featuring all things college baseball recruiting in a changing world. Hosted by Vinny Rotino, Josh Fields, and Andy Sroka, this is Badger State Ball.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Badger State Ball Podcast. Today we have an awesome episode. We have the legendary Milwaukee Brewers pitching coach coming on. You know, he's been instrumental to turning this staff into just perennially one of the strongest pitching staffs in Major League Baseball. But he has a history in the game that's taken him just across every single level you can imagine, you know, from amateur ball inside a facility, training facility, to college baseball, Northern Kentucky, to the pro ranks, obviously, minor league baseball, et cetera. So, but that has made him just this wealth of knowledge, and it's clear how much he cares about the players that he works with on a day-to-day basis. And I think there's a ton of information here that we're going to get out of this. I'll let Vinny maybe hand it over to you, just talking a little bit about the Brewers connection season you guys had. We've sprinkled that in here throughout the podcast as the season went on. But, yeah, take it away, Vinny.
I really appreciate it. I know that a lot of players, a lot of parents, a lot of coaches around the state, the audience that's listening to this podcast, really going to probably take away a lot of really good nuggets from this conversation, Chris. I mean, every time that I talk to you at the ballpark, I learn something new. And we really appreciate you coming on. I wanted to kind of first talk about quickly the season and just kind of maybe just touch on the season that the Brewers had, because it was quite the run. NLCS, beat the Cubs, Game 5. I was there as a fan. I lost my voice for a whole week. It was amazing. But just kind of go, just maybe touch a little bit on the Brewers season this year and, how magical it really was.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of the season was rough, right? I mean, the whole nation was talking about what they call them, torpedo bats.
Yeah.
I think Rawlings or whoever, or Louisville Slugger, made quite a few dollars there for about a week or two. But yeah, it was tough. I mean, because I think every season, or because how's it going to go? And I think until the season starts with our group, and because there is so much turnover and we have new players come in. It's very difficult to project. You know, we don't know how it's going to go. And I think the cool thing about our group, our pitching group, is that we're used to. I would say we have some resilience to us. We know that just because the beginning of the season is not going well, that it won't be good at the end of the season. It's that there's going to be a revolving door as far as pitching goes, and the guys that fit seem to stick around for a little bit and really help us towards the end. And I think you can just see that evolution of our staff throughout the year. The Quinn Priesters of the world that come in, and then we got Quintana that joins us, 3 weeks into the season, kind of solidify things. And then I think Ashby coming and becoming that multiple inning reliever really helped us. And I think there's so many pieces of our puzzle that goes on throughout the year that it's really difficult to understand how it all comes together. But I think that for us and our group, we are really trusting in our front office to get us the right people. And once we get those people in the building, that we're going to try to do our best to make sure that they're locked and ready to help win us the championship.
And Hookie, how difficult is that to do, however? Like in terms of every year, you guys do have a lot of turnover, but a lot of teams have a lot of turnover. But at the same time, there are some familiar faces around the clubhouse. And you guys go ahead and have a great season in 2024, and then you do have kind of a bump in the road at the start of the season, and I don't think it turned around. I want to say May 18th was when things really turned around, and I remember Murph having those meetings with the group and challenging the guys to find their edge again. I mean, and it's really just trying to find a new identity every single year, is it not? And I know some high school coaches around the state can probably relate to that, right? You have to try
Absolutely.
To find that identity every single year. It's not just because there are familiar faces, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to have that same chemistry, that same feel in vibes in the clubhouse and the dugout. How difficult is that to do, and how do you do that?
Well, I think you're right. If you go back, I was a college coach for 3 years, and then I also coached at the Frontier League, kind of that in between. It's pro, but obviously not affiliated. But I think it's really difficult. The standard has to be set. It's really difficult to let your players know how you want things to be done, and you have to do with a lot of energy. I talk about I was a coach at NKU, coming right out of playing my year in 2000. Here I was, a new face. Guys didn't really know me, but I had to come with energy and then setting standards throughout the day. And over the months, that first fall practice, I remember, and I'm sure your guys, as they start prepping for, I'm not sure, ours is February 14th here in this Kentucky area that we end up starting, but I know that you're doing individual work, whatever. But it starts back then. I remember fall practice, my first day, and I'm like, this is not how I want it done, and we're going to get it right. A lot of conversations, a lot of day to day changes to work, changes to throwing programs, changes to deliveries. I mean, it's really tough to get that right. But here's the good news for high schoolers and JUCOs and colleges. And I know it's probably changed a little bit at the college because the guys are moving around so much. But at the high school level, you set it, right? You set it, and those guys that are freshmen become juniors. They start setting the standard, and they can take care of it for the freshman and sophomore. So that really helps kind of build that lineage of success. We do it at our level. Obviously Freddie Peralta, Brandon Woodruff, Corbin Burns. Yeah, they all had to go through it. Really, really good at what they do, really good at their work, and everybody watches how they work. And I mean, once they start having success, then it's like, I'm really watching, right? And I think that's what happens at the high school level. It happened for me at the college level. But again, like the older guys start setting the standard and keep up the standard for everyone else.
Hoogie, let me just elaborate a little bit on what you were talking about right there, because you talk about this a ton, is the work in between starts. Now, what exactly? It just really spell that out for players that are listening to this, and again, coaches and parents as well. So the work is so important to Chris Hook, and we're talking throwing programs. So when Chris Hook would talk about this with me at the ballpark, and I'm like, really? Like, they're just playing catch. And it's like, no, it's not just playing catch, right? And just kind of really lay that out and describe what that means.
There's so many facets to it, so I'll try to be as simple as I can. So once these guys before they even come out to start throwing a baseball, they have prepped themselves, right? And again, we're at the very highest levels. We've got strength guys, we've got trainers. They've all kind of done everything they need to do to make sure that that day of work, that day of throwing, is the best they can possibly get it, right? So once they come out there, we do some football tosses, we do athletic throwing. There's so many different variables there for whoever. I mean, a Quinn Priester, he's got a band in his arm. He kind of preps with that band, making sure his body's working properly. Then he starts getting moving. He does a little bit of football toss. He does both of them together. And then we just kind of continue to layer at least, hey, I'm in a good position to start throwing a ball. And I think sometimes even at the college level, and I haven't been out to Northern Kentucky University, which is close to where I am now, out in a while, but you can see guys come out to start a throwing program, and their first 15 throws of a 40 throw day, right, they're wasted, right? And to me, like, when I'm throwing a baseball, I want to make sure that I'm synced up, I'm sequencing well, I'm throwing the ball through my target, my eyes are on the target, all of these things every single day, because I know if I start stacking those types of days together, I'll start get gradually a little bit better. I'm on time more often. I'm throwing my four seamer a little cleaner through the target, a little bit better. My partner is in it with me, right? Like, he's moving his target around. He's hitting those spots. That's it. That's not good enough. You didn't hit it. So every day that starts getting better and better and better, and your standard gets risen, right? I mean, every day. So I think that's the problem, is not every day the focus is not high enough to get something done. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. And I get so frustrated. Now, our guys now know they better come because I'm watching. And I think the other thing are some coaches just like, hey, go out and get your throwing program done. Not going to watch. I mean, that happens at the big league level a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of big leaguers. A 10-year big leaguer said, man, I've never had a pitching coach come out and watch my throwing
That's
program.
awesome. Yeah.
And I'm like, I think this is the core of you getting better every day. If I'm not out here, that's telling you I don't care. And in a small way. And that's not against anybody else in the big leagues, but it's just what I feel is important. I feel that leads to consistency. I think that shows. It'll be my 8th season. 6 out of 7 years we've been in the playoffs. I think our guys have proven themselves to be fairly consistent. You know what you're going to get on an everyday basis. I think that is the core of it.
Yeah.
Now,
sure.
It's just you got to turn it up, man. You got to turn it up, and it's got to be done every day.
And the proof is in the pudding with that hooky. 2023 first in team ERA, 2024 fifth in team ERA in the big leagues, and then last year's second in team ERA. And these are not a lot of household names that you're working with and you're kind of molding. But Andy, I think you wanted to maybe jump in, but I did want to come back to one specific thing. But go ahead, Andy. I want Andy to jump in here.
Yeah, no, bringing up Quinn Priester is like topical for us just because actually coincidentally he grew up not too far from where Nick and myself grew up, and I actually watched him pitch in high school and stuff. But he's a pretty like good concrete example, I think, to some of the people and players listening to our podcast because maybe they weren't quite at his level. He was a very high profile high school pitching prospect, but speaking with a lot of those kids that are headed to a power whatever school, SEC even. Quinn had seen a ton of success through the Pro Bowl after getting drafted and stuff, and then he kind of hits like some obstacles here and there. But like when he finally comes over to the Brewers, can you just maybe talk a little bit about that hands-on, like what you tweak, like the moment? Are you like, I'm excited to get Quinn in here because the moment he gets in, I'm able to tweak this and that. And I bring this up, I guess, as a way of like relating it back to sort of these high school players, like meeting that first, major obstacle for the first time, after, years and years of being the best kid in the area or the state even.
Right. Yeah. I tell you what, those are some of the most difficult opportunities, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn, hey, we're trading for Quinn Priester. He's there the next day. He's pitching the day after next.
Yeah.
All right. Come on, let's go out and work a little bit, And I think for me, the first few weeks and the first few interactions has to be. I'm listening a lot. I'm hearing his journey. I'm watching him throw. What do you got with that? Why do you do that? Is the reason why you go this far? And I try not to say too much of what I want to do. And then I start implementing small little things along the way. I think that's the hard part. I think being a coach, sometimes you have to filter down. You may see, I've got to do this, and this, and then you try to do too much of those things, and you can't get there. It's too much. Specifically for Quinn, he's an overprocessor. I couldn't give him too much. I had to, and you'll hear him say this a lot. Is like I kept it really simple, and I think that's part of his mental, his mantra a little bit. But I knew that I could not get to. And we tried to do some things early on, and I'm like, I pulled back right away. It didn't go very well, and it was really slow and methodical, but it was very, very consistent, right? But that first week, man. I'm like, man, we got to do this, and this. And let's start with this band. Let's start with the band. And then it's external, right? I don't have to talk a whole lot about it. Just put this band in. It forced him to be tighter. Oh, that feels really good. Okay, let's move with that. Let's move and still stay tight. And then all of those small little things came together. But like when I get a new player, I think it's really, really hard. And it's hard for coaches to like pull the reins back. I know where I want to take him. But how am I going to get there, and how sequential am I going to introduce these things along the way? And you've got to do it at the right moments. And that's why I'm saying it's important to be out there in throwing programs. Some of those things go in, let's try this today. Very, very subtly, right? Hey, we don't have to have a big meeting about it. That, hey, let's throw this differential ball at you today. See how it feels. Do you like it? You not like it? Oh, I really liked it. Okay, let's mix it in at this part of your throwing program. So um, any new person that and I'm talking to coaches, like, just be careful. I mean, you see the finished product or what you think that this person can do or this player can do, but don't try to throw everything at them all at once. Try to make sure that you're, number one, thorough. You have a plan, and make sure you stick with the plan as best you can, and be able to adjust and look for the coaching moments along the way. And that's why I think the throwing program and sides are important. Let me tell you, sides are important, but if they're not on time in the throwing program and they're doing the right things delivery wise, I know it's not going to be good off the mound. So those are fundamental things for me that really stick and have worked throughout my career.
Would you say then that you would almost like, because nowadays even high school programs, the programs around the state, the the academies and stuff like that, they all have spin rate data, they all have the TrackMans. But would you say, like, for a high school player, like, let's go ahead and not even kind of look at that right away? I mean, it's good to have a baseline, probably. That's why they come to our prep baseball showcases. You have a baseline of where you're at with some of the things, like some of your metrics, especially fastball metrics, which matter, obviously, really at any level. But would you say that go ahead and just let's not even look at that if you're not on time right now?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Why do you get into that point? I think those metrics are really good to get the fingerprint of who the player is, right? Is he a 4-seam guy, 2-seam guy? Is his slot change? All of those things that can get, wonky, but I want to know who he is, and I think that's important to know. Velo wise, hey, he's 15. He's throwing 82, and he's a 4-seam guy, stays behind the baseball. That's good information. So then I know in the throwing program, man, I've got to continue to, hey, that ball should be, I should see carry throughout his delivery. If a guy's a 2-seamer, I've had a guy in the last 2 years came over mid-season and it's 2-seamer, and it's like he's throwing a 2-seamer and it's running all the way through as opposed to staying on line and running through the catcher, closer to him. Those are small little things that you can do for a guy that has 2-seam run or sink, whatever. So the fingerprint's important. But like you said, if he's not on time in his throwing program, do you expect him to be on time as he goes quicker down the slope? Probably not. Yeah. Right. So if we get those core fundamental principles of a delivery down in flat ground, is his head tracking through? Is he staying, at all of the things, or is he firm in his front leg, even on flat ground? If he's not, how do I expect him to be able to control that as he gets his foot in the ground down the slope? Those are all things that I think we can get done in flat ground. Hey, you've perfected this. All right, let's see if we can move on. Again, we've got to get down the slope. It's important for the rhythm and timing. But if he's not doing it in flat ground, the likelihood of him doing it down the slope is pretty slim.
Do you find that? So that's an interesting point, because I actually don't know the answer to this question. I've read some things, but if you see a guy that does stay behind the baseball really well and has good carry on his fastball, even at a younger age, and I know you guys are looking at some of the metrics for some 14-year-olds, right? Probably 12-year-olds down in the Dominican Republic, right?
For sure.
You guys are looking at those kids. Now, do you find that from a very young age that those fastball metrics are going to kind of sustain throughout their careers, or can they get better, let's say, at vertical, IVB, or are they more of a 2-seam guy because they're able to, kind of get through the baseball a little bit differently than a 4-seam guy? So, like,
that's a great question. Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know the answer. I think you have a sense of who that player is going to be. I'm not saying that's the end all, because obviously there's going to be a lot of growth. And I'm not an expert. I had a baseball facility here in the area for over 20 years. So I worked with 6-year-olds to 18-year-olds. And then I was doing, like I said, the Frontier League. So I was always kind of like looking at how bodies work, right? And I think the cool thing is now that our young players are so good at training the right things that we're seeing those high velos. But I think you get body types and you get arm actions that, you can kind of project out a little bit. And of course, that's kind of what our Latin America group is doing, is like they're projecting out, hey, this guy works this way. we know typically when they work this way, it's going to be good. And he's already got good velocity. His hands work. He's got nice, good finger length. All of those things. Uh, I think you could probably like, hey, take a pretty good guess on what this guy should be throwing based on what you're seeing from that fingerprint.
That makes sense. I did want to get back to Quinn Priester just to kind of elaborate real quick on timing. Like, what does that mean? So, like, if a high school coach is looking at the timing, and actually Quinn Priester is a great example, I think, because I don't think you needed to be a baseball scout to watch him throw the baseball before you got your hands on him, quite honestly,
Right.
rookie, and realize, whoa, by the time that foot is on the ground, that front foot, that left foot, his arm's not ready to throw the baseball. Like, so if you just slow that down, I think anyone can kind of see that. So what does that mean, the timing? And then also, I love how you talked about the external focus that he had in order to get on time. And so if people wanted to go back and look, when we acquired him, when the Brewers acquired him, and then watching him pitch in Colorado in his first start, and then to now, there is quite a bit of difference. Talk about just maybe a couple of specifics if you can.
Right.
Not to give any way of the secrets or whatever, but like I think that's going to benefit a lot of players in order to just be on time to throw the baseball.
Right. I think with Quinn, not just Quinn, but I think there's a lot of true athletes that don't allow their athletic ability to shine. And I think he's one of them. Obviously, he played football. You guys know him. He's a strong, athletic dude.
Yeah.
But he doesn't let it shine sometimes, right? So he kind of forces the issue. I want to make sure my delivery does this instead of just like athletically moving. And what I mean by athletic, is let's say we do a step behind. You guys are familiar with the step behind.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a long toss program and your hands are moving together. I think what happens, athletic players sometimes, somehow the wiring gets a little bit clunky, right? I could mention 6 guys. I won't mention the 6 guys that I've had that came through the Brewers organization that I'm like, man, this guy is athletic. You watch him catch a football. Abner Uribe, crazy athlete, right? There are some of these athletes that start thinking through their athletic movements.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, that's a problem. All right. So my first thing is, if it's Quinn or someone else, that doesn't allow their kind of athleticism kind of shine, I just start moving them. Let's throw a football. Let's do some backhand drills. Let's be an outfielder. All of those things can all of a sudden like, man, that feels so much better. Yeah, we're not pitching here. We're just moving, right? So when that starts becoming a little bit more second nature, then you start seeing I'm moving faster. I can move faster, still be on time. I love the football. I mean, just being okay. And they're like, what kind of drills you want me to do? I say, can you just roll out, get your foot in the ground and throw a football? Can you roll out this way? We play around. I'm coming out, I'm like Mean Joe Green with my hands. You guys don't remember Mean Joe Green, but my hands are high, just playing around with them and they start moving. Mizorowski, same sort of thing. We did start doing small little things like that. Like, let's be athletic movers that throw a baseball.
Well, Vinny, that actually, that just to interject, because there's been a lot of really interesting, like Wisconsin-born players, like especially the last like 3-4 years, that have made an impact at the major league level. And even when they were in high school, they weren't necessarily, these high like level or thought of like baseball first prospects. But Vinny, that just kind of reminded, like all these guys, like we talk about all the time, like Illinois, just because we work with those states so often, like those kids are just kind of forced to focus a little bit more on baseball, like earlier, make that decision kind of earlier to focus on that versus these other sports. Wisconsin, it's still kind of like old school where it's like most of these kids still play football, most of these kids still play basketball or something.
Right.
But it just reminded me of that, is just because it's like I wonder if there's something to it where they're getting that athleticism is exists. It's being like produced elsewhere. They're just not this they're farther away from this finished product. Right. And then once they do hit those developmental ranks, getting the right hands, it just totally
it's exciting.
Yeah.
Hey, I think every time I think about a high school player and they're saying all they're doing is playing baseball, It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I think about 35 years ago, I was a major league player, but I don't consider myself an athlete. I pitched and I moved somewhat okay, but I wasn't a crazy athlete. I was the last guy on the basketball team. I did all those things. I played soccer, I played football, I played but it wasn't like I threw all year round either.
Hmm.
And I think about how good everything's going. I think there's so many ways that we can still keep an arm moving, but play basketball, play football. And I think that's the difficult thing is like, hey, those guys come right out of basketball practice and haven't picked up a ball and they start throwing and they're like, oh, I'm sore, or they tweak something. And they're so doggone strong, right? They've done all the things that make them stronger. And then they start throwing a ball and that intent is too high and they get hurt. So there's some kind of way of balance, but
Sure.
I love a 2 or 3 sport athlete. I mean, come on, the Jake Odorizzi's of the world. You got DeGroms, all those guys. You could see they're athletes that throw a baseball, and to me, when I see those guys that are thinking through delivery, like, man, we got to change something. We've got to change something in their work to help them like really plug into that. Like I said, it just feels like 2 plugs that are not connected sometimes. And I think Quinn was a really good example of that. He was able, I mean, he's so freaking strong, right? And he wants to move fast, but he wasn't moving fast. Like, what's the disconnect? What can we do? What can we do on a daily basis to help you do that? But again, I want athletic movers to throw a baseball. And if I can get that, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Nick, I think you wanted to jump in with something.
Yeah, I was just wondering what kind of mental makeup do you look for in pitchers that you want in your staff?
Well, I want resilient dudes. And I think this would be a really good thing for high schoolers. And again, like I said, I spent 20 years with players that would come in the offseason and we would just work on deliveries, but I could always tell who were competitors or not. Even based on adjustments. Hey, can you try this? I could, I don't know. I think I hope when I'm done with this that I'm able to go out and be on those backfields, or not on the backfields, but in the high schools and the college, because I think I have a pretty good idea who's going to compete for me or not.
Yeah.
When they walk in the door, you can feel it. And I think I was watching an old what is it, the Drake May from the Patriots,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and college coaches were going to his basketball game
Yeah. Yeah.
to see the competitive level,
Yep.
the competitiveness. And to me, I like to see reaction to hard times, right? When things are going bad, how do you react to them? Are you able to stay? Are you resilient enough to stay through it, to push through it? And then I want to see that guy that next day after a bad start. What's he doing? Is he moping around in the outfield and got his head down in the dirt? Or he's like, man, I'm getting better. Brandon Woodruff, double A. I mean, he'd get his head, he'd be really bad. And then he's in the office. What are we doing today to get better? What are we doing today to get better? That's not good enough. He would say, let's get to work. How are we going to get better? I mean, man, he would just stay on it and on it and on it. It's not good enough. And to me, the coach should not always be the one telling him it's not good enough. That kid should have a little bit of that. Hey man, sorry, coach. That's not me. I'm going to get better at that. I can throw more strikes. I can be more aggressive. I can take care of this game. And I think, when you start seeing kids, react to bad situations, in my way, positively, uh, and then like want to like embrace it, right? Like, man, it's okay. That was a bad time. It's okay. I'm going to get better at that. I'm going to move forward from that. And hey, what are we going to do today to help me get through it the next time? And I think it's hard to see sometimes. And you're like, oh, this kid. And I don't ever I think there are ways that we always talk about this a lot, is like, are there ways to get guys more competitive? I talk about this on a 1 to 5 scale. If I got a 1 in competitiveness,
Yeah.
can I get him to 3? I might be able to, but I need a 3. If I got a 3, I might be able to get him to 4 or 5. The one, and he doesn't have it, or you feel he doesn't have it, man, that's going to be tough to get him there, right? I'm not sure if I'm ever going to win with a one. The three, I might be able to get the four. He might be able to help my club. The fives, you're going to know, but you want to make sure the twos and the ones that, maybe you're on JV this year. Keep working on it. But you're going to know when they walk in the building. For me, it's pretty easy.
But how about the resiliency, the resilience factor? Because that is such a factor in baseball in general, right? It's the only sport where you can literally do everything right and things not go your way. In football, you throw a perfect pass, the guy catches it, or he might not catch it or whatever.
Right.
But if you do it often enough, more often than not, he's gonna catch it. Same thing in basketball. You release that shot perfectly, it's gonna go through the hoop. In baseball, especially pitching, well, even in hitting, you get a line drive at somebody 5 times in a row and it's demoralizing. But in pitching, you could throw a perfect pitch on the corner, on the black, have the guy set up, and the guy hits it off the scoreboard. I've never pitched. I don't know what that would be like. I gotta imagine it is like a kick in the teeth every time that something like that happens. Obviously, the opposite could be true as well. A guy could hit a rocket right at somebody, and Blake Perkins can rob a home run, as he did a bunch of times. But how do you teach that, one, or is that on a scale as well, 1 to 5? And how do you kind of encourage guys to continue to focus on the process?
I don't know if you teach it, Vinny. I think you have some of it. I can foster it, right? I can foster it. I can man, you made the pitch. You responded well. I was just thinking, if we throw the pitch exactly where you want to hit it over the fence, I'm getting with Jim. Like, Jim, bad scout report. That's what I'm thinking. That's my first thought when you said, do the pitch, you throw a home run. I'm like, oh, bad scout reports. But no, I think I can foster it. Like I said, we talk about the scale, and there's some guys I cannot foster. I can do everything I can. It's wasted energy. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try. And not that can't adapt. I think that's really hard nowadays too, with younger players. You're starting to see guys in a different level of competitiveness. I grew up in the Bobby Knights and all those tough guys throwing stuff across the floor. Nowadays, I'm not that kind of coach. But what I have to do is, when I find a guy that I might consider just a touch soft, I got to give it some time to make sure that I'm not. Somebody said this guy's competitive. I'm not seeing it, and what can I do to continue to help him with it, and find ways to challenge him to try to continue to like I said, foster it. Maybe it's in a bullpen. The one instance we had Elvis Peguero a few years ago in a playoff scenario where he was hurt, and he had went on the IL for the last week of the season. We're doing a bullpen, and I'm looking to make it competitive. I'm not able to do a live BP. I can't remember the situation, but Elvis had this huge chain, right? And I'm like, man, okay, we got to win the next 2 out of 3 pitches here, or that chain's mine. And I was doing it with a really straight face. This chain's this thick. I don't know how many thousands of dollars it cost. I said, if you don't get it done, that chain's mine. His face got really, really stern, right? I'm not effing around here. I'm trying to create some kind of competitive situation.
Yeah.
So he missed the first one. So I'm talking about 2 out of 3 pitches as strikes, right? Winning the count, we say. And he missed the first one. And that next one, he's 1-1. He's feeling the heat, right? We created a competitive situation. And he was able to get it done, and then he had to do it again. He kind of had the same situation. But all these little things that you can do during the day or in any situation, we do a lot of things in bullpens where we just kind of have a randomizer to try to make sure we get things done. We're going through next lineups. Okay, you're going to be facing these 3 guys in these situations. This guy's at second base. What are you going to throw? What's your thought process? So you can, like I said, that's fostering. And I think too, the throwing program, if I'm over there staying on top of that guy and not telling him he's not good enough, he'll start turning it up too. So there's all these little things that we can do. And again, in coaching moments too, coming off the field, what could you have done better there? Uh, I'm I scream a lot at the dugout. They could be ball. Guys get on me like they look at my old pitch. Some of my old hitting coaches throw a quality pitch, got through a pitch, he threw exactly where he wanted, call it a ball.
Mm.
That's it, at a baby.
Mm.
And my hitting coaches look at me like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, I'm all about the process, man. I don't know what the result is, but again, I think just like continue to foster those moments, and then hey, if you throw that quality pitch and you thought it was a good pitch and you hit it out of the strike out of for a homer, that's it, man.
Yeah.
You did what you could do, right? So I think those little things continue to build confidence and competitiveness.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And obviously it's like a pendulum, right? Like I just think right now it's just funny, like thinking to myself in high school. I've kind of referenced this on a podcast before, but I feel like so much. I was probably closer to the thought processes of like guys playing in the 1950s than modern day
Right.
because they just have
Right.
access to all of this information and technology.
Right.
Just even I didn't when I was playing back in the
Right.
day. But like, what is something like at the amateur level that you think we are just generally as a public like overvaluing maybe right now versus undervaluing right now?
Mm.
And what made me kind of think of that was just when you referenced, obviously, we don't have scouting reports on kids in high school, the opposing team and so on, but still like putting yourself in a position where, okay, yeah, okay, I do have a runner on second, or like I am familiar with this team a little bit, like so, okay, let's create this environment where I'm testing myself and like I'm in this position, games on the line, so on. That just kind of because I feel like that is potentially being neglected, just because now it's like weight room, get stronger, throw harder, and so on, and
Right.
that shift needed to happen, but maybe it's this other thing is being left behind potentially.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a kind of a game plan
Hmm.
situation. Even you can do it at the most rudimentary level. Is it kind of what you're kind of maybe that's something that's missing
Yeah.
as far as a large part. Yeah, I think it's important. Jim Henderson came on in rookie ball. I was a coordinator in 2018, and he came in, and we talked about this as far as guys coming in from all different levels. Maybe guys were from. He was in Helena that year. Did you spend some time in Helena, Vinny?
Oh yeah, yep, 2003.
God,
Yeah.
God bless you. Beautiful place.
Yes.
Not a very good ballpark, but a beautiful
Terrible.
place.
Yeah.
But anyway, you've got all sorts of different levels, and you can speak to this as a freshman in high school too. He had guys from the Dominican. He had guys that were in extended that were just kind of hang around guys. You had guys from D1 colleges. So he brought all these guys in, and I told him to start the process of learning how to pitch, understanding how the lineup works. Hey, this guy's a leadoff hitter. What kind of hitter is he? Is he a singles hitter? Normally, hey, guys, if you didn't know this or not, but they used to put the better hitters second and third place in the order, fourth, sometimes with power. But you could kind of go down the order and start understanding of who he is and what is he trying to do. And that gives me a better understanding of, oh, okay, let's say I've got a base open and their best RBI guy, and the guy behind him is not very good.
Hmm.
Just starting to understand how to play the game a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to start doing this, like I said, in 2018, starting to dig a little bit because our game plan at the big league level is so intense, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can we go from giving them nothing and just letting them go out, like you said, all they're doing is trying to get better, get the engine better, right? And then they come up here and don't know how to play the game.
Mm.
Right. So I think there's a lot of skull sessions that can be done at the high school level. Bring them in off the field. Let's talk about this situation. Bring up some clips on TV. Hey, we just watched this game last night. What'd you see? What was weird about that? Can you walk me through it? Was the positioning right? All of the things that I think that we could probably do a better job of coaching. Obviously, we're trying to make the player better. That's player development, but player development also goes in a different way, and that's what you're trying to say is that, hey, how many different ways can we get a player better? One way is get them in the classroom and talk about the game,
Hmm.
right? How can we win counts better? All right, 0-0, can we get to 0-1? 1-1, can we get to 1-2? These are simple things, but those players might not even know, hey, what pitches do I throw in those counts? Why are you throwing a 2-0 breaker that you never throw for strikes, even in catch play?
Mm.
dummy, don't do that. I mean, so those are things that I think even after a game, you could bring a kid in and say, hey, there's some moments in this game that you made some bad decisions. It wasn't about a bad pitch, but why would you do that in that situation? So I think getting them in off the field is super important. When we have meetings before spring training, we want to try to get in front of all those things. And there might be, hey, let's make this adjustment. Let's get you off the field. Let's look at these videos. Let's look at your heat map or whatever. But in your situation, you're talking about rudimentary level. We're just trying to get them to understand the game better. And I think that's going to be super important for any coach is like, hey, I don't even know if you're a good player or not, but hey, how would you handle the situation? Before you start, I mean, obviously layering it with the player development part.
Yeah, for sure.
Hookie, maybe you have time for one more. We really appreciate this conversation. I'm learning a ton already in the 40 minutes that we've been talking to you, but I want to know, because personally, I think after being in this game on the professional level since 2003, just mentioned that I was in Helena in 2003, where the sun did go down right behind the batter's eye, so you had to wear your helmet a little bit lower. Yeah. That's why Henderson's
resilience, got to have a little resilience there, Vinny.
Team ERA was probably really good that year. But okay, so I do think that the number one attribute that I always looked for in a coach, and this is when I was a player, this is when I was a scout for the Texas Rangers, this is what I look at now. Now I'm not evaluating who's a good coach or not. I'm just saying that this is what I noticed in the best coaches that I've had or that I've noticed throughout the years. And you have this in spades, Hookie. I don't know. First of all, I don't know if I've ever met or talked to a more knowledgeable or more skilled pitching coach, and I'm not trying to make you feel awkward in this situation at all. I think you are just phenomenal on so many different levels. The knowledge part of it, and then the ability to connect with players, and then also the ability to get more out of players. Motivate them when they need to motivate, pat them on the butt when they need to be patted on the butt. But you do it all. And again, the most important attribute that I find in coaches, and again, I think a lot of coaches can take kind of use this in their coaching careers, especially ones that are starting out, is the ones that care about players. That you get the most out of your players when they can feel that, right? And you do that. There are some coaches that are really knowledgeable, that know when to push buttons and can really give that rah-rah speech, but you can tell within 5 minutes of talking to them, less than that actually, that they are kind of in it for themselves. They're looking to climb the ladder, right? You don't do that. You don't come across that way. It's super authentic. How do you do that? First of all, maybe you don't even know you're doing that. But you do that. And, I guess kind of maybe talk a little bit about that. How you get the buy-in so quickly and why do you care so much about the players that you work with?
Well, thank you, Vinny. That's probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Well,
You're mean to me a lot. No, you're not.
It's recorded.
But thank you.
Yeah.
It's, Vinny, I keep referencing Northern Kentucky University. I went there as a player and would come back and work out in the winter. And it was just when I would come back and help the pitchers, it would light me up. And I didn't know at the time, I enjoyed it. I was still playing, right? But I mean, this fired me up, right? To just help someone, or at least feel like I was helping, right? And I think like you said, it's authentic. I don't think there is a day that goes by that I'm not like, man, how can we not make this dude better? And if we, as far as our organization goes, I can't waste a day or a player. There are other organizations that say, he's not good enough. Move on. This will be my 18th year in the Brewers organization, and I felt this as soon as I walked in the door. There wasn't a player that I had to take a day off on, or okay, he's not good enough, we're just going to move on to the next guy. And I think that there's a lot of that in there too, right? For me, like that is something that is ingrained in who I am and what I do. And again, I am very passionate about doing it, but there's also a part of me like our organization needs me to do this for us to be successful. And I think that's part of it too. So there's a passion and a need. And I think probably every high school coach or college coach probably has that same feeling, unless you're some D1 school that's getting transfers or some private school that can get the best players, whatever. But I think every coach out there, most coaches, I should say, not every, should probably have that same feeling, because there should not be a guy on your roster that you can't do something with. And to me, I'm always, who's the weakest link out here? And I got toasted by one of my coordinators, one of my first years in the Brewers organization. Why are you spending so much time with that guy? He's a non-roster. What I'm like, that's who I am. I'm sorry. I'm spending the time with our prospects too, but I'm not leaving this guy behind. He may end up being. I was that dude. I'm non-drafted.
Yep.
And that's part of it too. As a non-drafted player, I appreciated the guys along the way doing the same thing for me. Brent Strom, I can remember me struggling in AAA. Him taking some time with me. He did. I mean, this dude he'd been in pro baseball 20 years. I'm not sure he was a big league coach yet, but he'd been doing it a long time and was still putting in the time. So, like I said, it was happening to me as a non-drafted player. And as a coach, knowing that how important it was to make sure that every player got to its highest potential, then to get to the big leagues, they get to the big leagues. But I'm sure the hell is going to try, no matter what. So, like I said, I think passion and need would probably be the best answer for that.
I love that.
Right?
I love that, Hookie. So, I mean, there's high school players right now who are probably undersized, got a lot of passion, and they're just waiting for that one coach maybe to say the right thing that clicks for them, and all of a sudden maybe they're going to develop physically, and that kid's going to make it to the big leagues, and he's going to point to that pitching coach back in Wisconsin at their high school. So, man, just awesome stuff, Hookie. Andy, you wanna wrap this up? We really appreciate you coming on, Hookie. Cannot thank you enough. I know there's going to be a lot of players, coaches, and parents that are going to take away a lot from this conversation.
It's awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate your time, Chris. Thanks a lot.
All right, man. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Have a good winter.
Yep. You too.
See ya.
All right, I'll mark this here. Sweet. Well, appreciate that, Chris. Thanks again. This is super awesome. So really enjoyed having you on here.
Yeah,
it was great. It was great.
It was awesome.
Anytime, guys.
All right. Well, that was Chris Hook, Milwaukee Brewers pitching coach, kind of a legend around here, it feels like. I mean, Vinny, you've always talked about how, just hanging around the ballpark before game, pre-post game, whatever. Like, you've always referenced just how much you've gotten out of him just in your just casual conversations and stuff. So having him on here, talk a little bit more, formal about, not just the amateur level, but pro stuff, how he approaches it. I thought it was super valuable information to get out of that.
Phenomenal. That's the kind of guy Chris Hook is. You can sense. He just talked about that last answer being authentic, and that's how he gets the most out of players, because he's authentic. He truly cares. Like, he truly cared to have this conversation with us, and if it can impact one player, just one player, I mean, he's going to find that this conversation was worth it. You can sense that from him. He's just not only is he super smart and a super capable coach, probably the best pitch. I argue that he's the best pitching coach in all of baseball. He's just a great dude, and again, you can sense that in that conversation right there.
Yeah. Well, it was great. Well, and last week, you want to mention too, you talked to Marty Pitts last week, former Indian Trail head coach, tons of Wisconsin ties. You guys can listen to that if you haven't just yet, but you want to plug that here quick, Vinny, how that went?
Yeah, definitely go back and listen to last week's episode with Marty Pitts, the Dominican Summer League manager for the Texas Rangers. Indian Trail High School. He went to Parkside, played a little bit at Parkside. He was the hitting coach for the Kenosha Kingfish a few summers back. And so, yeah, Wisconsin ties, and the guy, Marty, is making his way. Definitely take a listen to that podcast as well. You'll probably be able to get some good nuggets out of that one as well.
Yes, for sure. Well, you can find that wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, whatever. We also put this together on YouTube, so thanks to producer Clayton Hopfinger for doing that. I think that's all we had to cover this week. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here a little bit. I don't know. We'll see what we talk about next week, but we'll put something together. That'll be fun. Is that it, guys? What do you think? Nick, you got anything? You good? Nick's nodding.
I'm all good.
All right, awesome. Well, Vinny, you wanted to lead us out in the outro here? I feel like you have the energy.
Yeah. You know what? We just gotta stick with this outro right here because I think it's gonna catch on, and eventually, you know what? We're gonna be cheering it at high school games around the state. Is ready? Here we go.
Totally.
Go Team Cheese.
Go Team Cheese. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Badger State Ball Podcast. To keep tabs on our latest events, rankings, and coverage, subscribe or follow the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and follow us over at Prep Baseball WI on X and at PrepBaseballReport.com/Wisconsin. Until next time.